Hello everyone, and welcome to another part of making my Zuko cosplay. Well, actually, I made this costume quite a few years back. And for that costume, I then made a latex makeup piece. But it has gone bad quite a few years back, so I threw it away. But since I have a photo shoot coming up with this costume, I need to remake that piece. So that's what I will show you today. How to sculpt the latex, how to mold it with silicone, and how to cast in that silicone piece. Then finally how to color the latex makeup. So without further ado, let's get crafting. This cast face was actually made 5 years ago for the Zuko cosplay, so that I could sculpt the scar around the eyes and actually have it fit to my face. But we're going to remake this because the previous one, being made about 5 years ago, was starting to deteriorate quite badly. We will have to remake this. For this scar, I want to keep my eye free because I want to be able to see through it. So I'm just going to sculpt a bit around the eye. This is just simple plasticine clay. Nothing fancy. First, we are starting by covering the eyebrow, which is the most important part. It should be a bit bigger than the eyebrow so that you can add the glue around it, and not accidentally remove part of your eyebrow when peeling off the scar. If you look at the references, he has 2 creases below his eye and, well, 2 creases above his eye. And I'm not sure if you can see it, but I made 2 ridges, one here and one here, to resemble those creases. We also want to make sure that the edges of the plasticine are as flat as possible. We do not want any ridges, because that way it blends into my actual skin easier. Furthermore, due to the fact that the fire spread from here to there, we want all the lines to go smoothly in, well, that direction. Zuko's scar actually ends up quite low. I believe it ends up as low as the bottom of his nose. However, this is not the entirety. I will paint this a dark red with a slightly lighter red around it, so that the actual scar blends into the face quite nicely. So I can get the makeup down below the scar, but actually have the latex only end up there. I think this is starting to look a bit like what we want. We have all the stripes going that way. And now we're going to cast this with rebound silicone that we can just paint over. So let's get on to casting. Because I'm always making too much, because I don't want to make too little. I also clayed up some teeth that I have, because you can never have too much teeth molds, I guess. I will be using rebound silicone 25, which you can measure by weight or volume. And I will be using weight to measure this. I'm going to aim for, well, around 40 grams. I can be over it. This stuff has quite a high viscosity, so we'll see how close we can get. 39.5, I guess that is good enough. That's quite close to 40, isn't it? And 39, well, that's close enough. I like how ridiculously orange this stuff is. Now, can we mix this? This stuff has quite a long shelf life. It's 20 minutes from pouring, so I have to quit doing anything. So that means that I can take my time to make sure that it's mixed well. For the actual applying, I'm going to grab a brush that I was going to throw away anyway. And I'm going to start by stippling this on. Or more like dabbing it on. I don't want the stiff brush hairs to make points in the clay, because then we get a weird texture on the appliance, which is not what we want. This is going to end up very messy because this stuff will drip off my face, but That's why I had the plastic bottom underneath, because silicone comes off plastic quite easily. I'm brushing on a nice thick layer now. Most of it is, as you can already see, going to end up down there anyway, but still. I guess I'm going to leave that. This stuff has a cure time of 6 hours. So after our dinner, I should be able to brush on the second layer, because this stuff will need multiple layers. So I'm going to enjoy the rest of my day. Hello, and welcome back again. You might notice a few things. First of all, the lighting is different. Well, that's because it's currently 7:45 and it is slowly getting dark outside. So the light's on, which is something that I don't usually do because shadows. Then, secondly, you might notice that I built a wall around the application for Zuko. That is because it is nice and drippy, this stuff, but I would like it to be more, have a bit of a bottom and stack up higher than just a single coat. The first coat already covered it pretty well, and seeing as this is a quite thin appliance, we don't need all that much coats. So I built a wall around it of plasticine, and hopefully that will contain the silicone a bit. It's still probably going to be a mess with silicone sprawling everywhere, but we'll see about that. Let's start pouring. This afternoon we made way too much silicone, so we can do with a little less. We made 80 grams in total, I think, so seeing as well almost half of it ended up on the side, I guess we can say that let's now go for 30 each. Still better have too much than too little. Actually, let's do 25. That's a nice midway of everything. That's 25.8. Close enough. $25.4. That's quite nice. Now let's get to mixing this again. Making sure to scrape all of the sides and the bottom, and mixing it very well. So now I can again. This time it doesn't really matter how I paint it on here, because we do not need to preserve any details, because they are already in the layer underneath. So all that we now need to do is just make sure that it's everywhere, and then we can just pour the remaining bit on here. Okay, I see another problem. I did not expect this part here to be the highest part, so the lowest part actually. Let's see. Hopefully that evens it out a bit more. This one now needs to set as well, and then tomorrow morning we can start demolding this. Good morning. I had a nice night's sleep and the silicone is ready to be demolded. I'm actually surprised it did not turn out to be a mess, and the barrier actually held everything. So let's demold this, which is basically peeling away the plasticine. And now we can just peel this off. And there we go. That's the mold for the Zuko scar. It might look a bit weird, but we're usually not used to seeing things in, well, negatives, which this is. When I want to cast this, I'm going to brush in some latex and then stick it back to the face so that the latex will fill the places where this clay used to be. But I'll show you that later. So my plaster face has been cleaned up. It's time to add some latex. I'm going to show you my second try, because the first try ended up with holes. Like this. Which was caused by pushing on the mold after I put it on the face. So today we're going to try not to do that. Before I started filming, I sprayed my face with the mold release to make pulling the latex off easier. And I added a drop of dishwashing liquid to the brush that I'm going to use for the latex, so I can actually clean my brush and reuse it after using it for latex. So the actual casting of this is quite easy. It's basically filling up the mold with some latex. The latex that I'm using is Meron liquid latex, which is a makeup grade latex. I'm just going to dab this all around the mold so it fills up the places where the clay used to be. Now we're gonna put the silicone mold on the face, and we're going to do this gently. Because this is made to form, it will just slot into place. We won't have to press on it, we won't have to do anything, it just slots into place. We also don't want it to move around too much, because that means we'll just get latex everywhere. And there we go, that's all we need to do. I am going to press a slight bit on the edges so that we hopefully get very thin edges, which makes eventually applying it a lot easier. So this is all I'm going to do, and now we're going to just let it dry for at least a day. We can't see whether it's dry or not, but if we lift the mold before it has fully dried, we will ruin the mold. I know that this, with quite thin layer of latex, will be dry in about a day. Probably shorter, but I prefer not to take that risk. It's a day later and we can demold this. Let's see how it dried up, how it came out. And this should release relatively easy because silicone does not stick to latex. It's the nice thing about silicone, it doesn't stick to anything. There we go. That looks quite nice and already a lot better than my first try. You see a small air bubble here, but I guess that's doable because the bubble is covered over. Now, as you can see, it's slightly lighter here than at the edges, which means that it hasn't completely dried here yet, so I will leave it like this for another day, and then we can take this off the plaster face. So, again, see you guys tomorrow. It is again the next day and the latex has, well, nearly completely dried. I can still see slight white here, but I guess it's okay to peel it off anyway. So I'm gonna try and start. Also, with latex, you have to be really careful that you don't fold anything over, because latex will stick to latex and it might not come loose again. I have to be rather careful not to fold anything over, except maybe for the very edges that we will cut off anyway. I must say, previously I always forgot to put the mold release on the plaster face, but this releases very easily. I quite like it. There we go. One scar. I will have to cut some bits off because I don't want latex in front of my eye. But other than that, it looks quite nice. So for cleaning it up, all I'm going to do is find a nice edge that's not too thick. Just cut it off with a pair of small scissors. I'm also going to cut this loose so that I can vary the distance between the bottom part and the top part. If I want to stick it on my face like that, it's possible, and if I want to stick it on my face like that, it's possible. So that's why I'm also cutting out this middle part. That looks looks nice. Which means that we can now pre-paint this. And because this is the first time I'm going to paint this, I'm just going to stick it to my face and paint it there. I know this probably will all end up being one color, but just to be sure, I'm going to stick it to my face and then color it.
So, first of all, we are checking what area the scar takes up, after which we can apply Vaseline to the eyebrow. This makes sure that we can't accidentally glue the latex to the eyebrow itself. After that, we can apply Mastix to the latex. Because this is just a trial run, I'm not adding as much Mastix as usual. Normally, you would apply this to the entire outer edge. Wait until the Mastix is tacky, and then stick the latex piece to your face. Then it is time to start coloring. With a slightly damp sponge, I'm applying these two colors of face paint. First, we are starting with the lighter, more orange on the outer side. You can dab this on with the sponge. Try not to make sweeping motions, as that will remove layers you painted on previously, and dabbing will also make the cover better. Then we can add the darker color on the inside in the same manner. Because the lighting in my bedroom made it all turn out rather orange, I also decided to add some normal red. And more color variation is always a good thing. Then, when you are happy with all the colors, wait for everything to dry and then peel the latex off again.
After peeling the prosthetic off my face, it looks somewhat like this. And frankly, in daylight like this, the colors already look a lot better and a lot bright orange. Pretty much all that is left right now is, in case you used a lot of Mastix, to peel away carefully the remaining Mastix, but as I didn't use a lot because that was just a trial run, I don't have any to peel off right now. What I wanted to do right now is fill in the last bits of the scar with some color. As you can see, here is a ridge that I didn't get to paint yesterday because that's slightly difficult when it's on your face. So here I've got a sponge which is slightly damp. I only want a tiny bit of water and I'm going to color it with the darker, like that. With a brush we can just get right in there and color it along. And that's basically all that was left on this scar. It is now ready to be used for photo shooting. I'm now going to pack this away in a container, safely and secure. And then at the moment of photo shooting, all I need is my Mastix and the two colors of paint to paint around the prosthetic. That's it. Oh, and Vaseline, of course, to get rid of my eyebrow. So that's it. We're ready for the photo shoot. Unfortunately, due to the excitement of the photo shoot day, I forgot to actually record myself wearing the scar. So I have some pictures of that day instead. The credits of the photographer are linked down below. While pouring the mold for the scar, I also pour the mold for the teeth. That is a two-part mold. And if you would be interested in seeing a tutorial for that, I actually have all the footage recorded, so please let me know if you'd like to see that. Then, if you have any more questions about making a latex prosthetic like this, please let me know in the comments. I'd be more than happy to help. And that was it for today. Thanks for watching and see you next time.